Hello everybody, welcome back to History of Spriggs. My name is Spriggs, and today we will be talking about the Pig War. Before we start the video, I need to make a quick disclaimer, and that is that, well, if you've been paying attention, there's been a bit of a pattern. I've been posting every other week. And yeah, that's starting now. It's sort of official that I'll be posting a main video every other week, but I'll be posting a short every other week to fill in the gap. So technically I still will be posting weekly, but through shorts and main videos. Well, with that being said, let's get right into the video. The Pig War started June 15th, 1859, and ended November 25th, 1872, although all troops were withdrew in 1874. The Oregon Treaty was signed on June 15th, 1846, resolving the Oregon boundary dispute. And if you watch my Every Colonial Country in the Americas, there's the Oregon country, which America established as a puppet state to gain tension in this dispute. And America has done this with during the War of 1812 with the Spanish, establishing a country, and during the Mexican-American War, establishing the California Republic. And so, it followed, the new boundary was following the 49th parallel north, and then the border turned west up until the Strait of Georgia, and where it followed and went south to the Pacific Ocean, following the Strait of Juan de Fuca. But as the Strait of Georgia is up north, in between that is the San Juan Islands and the Strait of Rosario and the Haro Strait. And then, as you go down, the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and then the Pacific Ocean. And these small groups of islands, known the Gulf Islands, most of them were awarded to Britain, but the San Juan Islands were disputed over. The geography of this area was little known, so in 1856, the U.S. and the British set up a boundary commission to resolve the issues of the border. The U.S. Commissioner, Archibald Campbell, thought the border should run along the Haro Strait, running west of the San Juan Islands, favoring the Americans. But the British Commissioner, James Prevost, thought the treaty drafters intended the border to be navigable and separate from Vancouver Island, and it must head in a southern direction along the channel, and Prevost said only the Rosario Strait matched it. This would favor the British, and he lied about the straits, and because, well, the Haro Strait was navigable too. They were both, except for kind of actually the Rosario Strait, were navigable. And so, he tried to argue this, but until December of 1857, when it was clear that both sides weren't convincing each other. Both sides claimed the islands, and the Hudson Bay Company established operations in a sheep farm called Bellevue Farm, and also, by the mid-1850s, 25 to 29 American settlers settled on the island. And within the U.S. General McClellan, who was a friend and both graduated at West Point and were very good friends of Captain George Pickett. And this is in the late 1850s, and around that time, George Pickett sided with the Confederates, and McClellan sided with the Union during the Civil War. And McClellan claimed that Pickett and General William S. Harney conspired to start a war with Britain, creating a common enemy for North-South confrontation. However, General Granville O'Haller said the South would distract them and secede with this war. And it may be true that they did. It's not really known because, this was supposed to be secret. On June 15th, 1857, Lyman Cutler, a farmer from Kentucky, found a pig eating his potatoes. This wasn't the first time that this occurred, even. And tired of this intrusion, shot and killed the pig. And so, it turns out, the pig was owned by an Irishman named Charles Griffin, who was employed by the Hudson Bay's British Columbia. The Hudson Bay Company, which is also the oldest continuously operating country in North America. And he was employed at the Bellevue Sheep Farm. And he had other pigs, and he let them roam free. And Cutler and Griffin lived in peace up until this. Cutler agreed to pay $10, equivalent to $350 in today's money, and Griffin, unsatisfied with this, agreed to pay $100, equivalent to $3,500 in today's money. Cutler believed he shouldn't even pay anything because the pig was trespassing, and Cutler said to Griffin, "It was eating my potatoes." And Griffin replied, "It is up to you to keep your potatoes out of my pig." And so, the British threatened to arrest Cutler, and the American settlers on San Juan Island called for military protection. Brigadier General William S. Harney sent Captain George Pickett with 66 men to San Juan Island to stop the British from landing. The British sent 3 naval ships under Captain Geoffrey Hornby to make sure the American squatter population didn't grow, favoring the Americans. And meanwhile, Pickett's force found a hill. Pickett said, "We'll make a Bunker Hill out of it." And he built a battery near the Hudson's Bay Company's Bellevue Sheep Farm on the south point of San Juan Island. And by the way, San Juan Islands is a group of island chain in the middle, and San Juan Island is the biggest island of the small group of islands, which was the main, so to speak, theater of the war. And so, he built it near the farm, and it was called Robert's Redoubt, which was named for for the military commander. And so, after this, on August 10th, 1859, the Americans, numbering about 461 men and 14 cannons under Colonel Silas Casey, and the British with 5 Royal Navy ships, 70 cannons, and 2,140 men on board under Captain Hornby, met. And this was the closest point that they almost went to war. And so Governor James Douglas of the colony of Vancouver Island ordered Hornby not to take action, and Hornby said he would not until he discussed with Rear Admiral Robert L. Baines of the Royal Navy. And so he came and took control. He said he wouldn't escalate the issue to a war over a squabble about a pig. When the news reached the capitals of London and Washington, D.C., they immediately took action. In September, then-President James Buchanan sending the General-in-Chief Winfield Scott to negotiate with Governor Douglas. This was in the best interest, as secessionist tensions were increasing, which would lead to the Civil War. And if you know about this, James Buchanan tried to ignore the Civil War as much as he could. And so, this would lead to the Civil War, and Scott had already calmed 2 border disputes between 2 nations as a result of the negotiations. They were able to retain a military presence, but it was reduced only to 100 men. The British also established a camp at the northern end of the island. The 2 small garrisons, both not engaged as in a military way, but they met up and, celebrated national holidays together and participated in sport together. And they had a very good relationship. A diplomatic settlement was halted during the Civil War, but in 1871, the West Coast colony joined the newly formed Dominion of Canada. That year, Britain and America signed the Treaty of Washington, which dealt with various issues. Among the decisions was to fix the San Juan issue. They decided to choose international arbitration, and they chose Emperor Wilhelm II of Germany as the arbitrator. They met at Geneva, Switzerland, with a 3-man arbitration commission. Nearly a year later, they favored the Americans, and they did this on October 21st, 1872. And the border went along the Haro Strait, and the British left on November 25th, 1872, and the Americans followed July 1874. Thanks for watching this video. If you like it, like the video, and share this with a friend. If they don't listen, share it with an enemy. Also, subscribe and drop a comment. If you want to see a video that I could make, well, put it in the comments down below. And with that being said, Spriggs out.